Now time for me to think of an intro out of nowhere. Alright. Because I don't like to prepare for these things.
Intros are hard.
Intros are hard. In fact, I like that as the intro. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first in a series that we're doing in which, you know, it's the end of the year, or actually it's the beginning of the new year. But it is time for us now to each talk about what our favorite films of 2012 were. So we are each going to give off our 10 favorite movies of 2012. These are not the movies we thought personally were the best. These are not the movies that we thought were just the, you know, deserve awards. This is just, you know, what were our personal favorite films of the year.
So these are the movies that we thought were the best.
The best, well, no.
I thought that's what the whole point was.
No, there's a difference between that. Best, you know, there are films that you can look at and go, okay, that had the greatest quality to it. This, you know, definitely was an incredibly well-made film, but just didn't do anything for me. And then there are other movies that you can go, yeah, it's not that great, but I just had so much fun with it and just totally enjoyed it.
These are our top 10 movies, and each of us can pick our own rules for what that means.
Yeah,
These are
fine.
just, yeah.
Sure.
I'm just trying
you know
to...
what, that happened in the screened articles too, which I haven't posted yet, hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of, everybody had different definitions of what top 10 was too, so...
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing is that, you know, I'm trying to put it like this because I figure if you say, well, I think this was the best movie of the year, then people can argue with that. If you say, this was my personal favorite of the year, what kind of an asshole is going to come in and go, that was not your personal favorite movie of the year? I will tell you what your personal favorite movie of the year was.
But how
We're all turning to look at Jackson at the moment.
Like, I thought the whole point of these lists were to get primarily angered people to comment.
Maybe on other websites
on
that
other
cater
website.
to assholes, but on screen, we prefer to cater to the intellectuals and to the fun-loving crowd. So,
Many buff... don't worry.
I got the feeling you were both going to say something very cynical at the moment, but crossed each other out at the same time. So, starting this off is going to be Stacey. Stacey is joining us, everybody.
Hello.
I don't know what that was, but it was adorable. Alright.
It was supposed to be a hello. Apparently it turned into
Hello.
something not exactly like hello.
I never know how to reply to such greetings.
They don't have that hello in bear talk, Maz. Alright. But yeah, also joining us in the peanut gallery is going to be Jackson and Maz today.
Hello.
Yep.
Alright. So, Stacey, why don't you start us off with your list?
Alright.
And before we start, is this your, like, 10 through 1, or is this just your 10 favorite films, like, in no particular order?
This is confusing because it's like my top 3 in particular order and then the rest of them in no particular order.
Okay, that's not too confusing. We got that.
No, it's not too confusing at all. But so let's just say in no particular order, and you can
Until the top 3, yeah. Got it.
Yes. I'm actually still deciding on my if we're going 10. You know what? Actually, no, I'm not doing 10. I'm doing 9. I've been trying to do 10, and I've been trying to throw the last one on there, and I am not going to do that because if I'm not passionate enough, I'm not going to put it on there.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yes. Actually, I'm going to start at the top. I'm not going to start at the bottom. My top movie of this year would be
Stacey just makes her own rules. I
apparently I do. I'm going off the cuff here.
You're a renegade, Stacey.
Yes. Because I don't like counting know, because I like talking about the one that I love the most.
I gotcha.
Because then I feel like by the time we get to the end, Anyways.
All right.
Silver Linings Playbook, my favorite movie of the year, by far. In that, I actually had a very interesting experience with movies this year in that I had a lot of trouble emotionally connecting to a lot of them. And I would say, okay, that was kind of good. In the case of Lincoln, Zero Dark 30, not really, because I didn't even really like it. But anyway, it's like I felt like a lot of movies that I was supposed to like, I could appreciate them for what they were, but I had no emotional connection to them.
I'm going to go see Zero Dark 30 tomorrow, and I would love to do an audio review with you, because I have not seen it yet, but that was one of those movies that everyone has praised so much that I would love to have somebody come on and just give the opposite opinion on. Not for any kind of, like, causing a fight or anything, but just simply to, like, go, like, just to get that voice out there, because I don't think there is anyone out there giving that voice at the moment.
I will do it. I will absolutely do that.
Love it.
I would be more than happy to talk about it. But so I think that's what, by the time I saw Silver Linings Playbook, it was like this breath of fresh air of a movie that I just loved. I just, I thought the acting was incredible. I thought the story was interesting. The storyline I thought was interesting. I think that it is very hard to capture high-functioning bipolar disorder, and I think it actually did that. And, it made me smile, and that's kind of my biggest thing, that I finished it, and I laughed, and it made me smile, and I wanted to watch it again, and I didn't really have that experience with many other films this year, and that's why I loved it. Did
you get a screener for this one, or did you go to the theaters to see it?
This one I had a screener. I'm kind of mixed on all of these, so, I had a screener, but I actually have... In my house, we have a projector, so it's kind of like in between.
Oh my god, that's awesome!
Oh my god.
It's not like a huge projector, but, it's like... Sure.
On the scale of Three Kings to The Fighter, where does this one land? Like in its kind of oddity.
Are they directed by the same person? Why is that your scale?
Because they're directed by David O.
Yes.
Russell.
Oh, they are directed by the same person? Oh, okay,
Yes.
just making sure.
It's
like, I know we haven't figured out what the Screen Pups rating system is going to be for our audio reviews, but I don't like that one.
On the scale of Titan AE to Nightmare on Elm Street 4, where does this fall?
Well, Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was the Dream Warriors, right? Clearly the best one.
I have to step in as ref and stop this conversation now and get back to Stacey.
I don't know how to answer that question because it's so different, actually, from anything that he's done. It's very quirky in a way, but it's probably actually I do love Three Kings, but yeah, it's probably my favorite that he's done. I liked The Fighter, but it's certainly my favorite. Quirkiness, like, odd level, it's completely odd in a totally different way. It's more odd in just, like, the characters that it depicts than actually the, strangeness of the movie.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, cool. What's your next one?
Moonrise Kingdom would be my second one. I am a big Wes Anderson fan, and I loved seeing a Wes Anderson movie that I actually loved. And it had been a while since that, and there's just... Again, I think it was the same thing, and I don't know if this says something about my mood this year, but it was like, I just wanted to be happy when I watched movies, and this was another one that did that. And
I can fully relate to that, yes. That's what most of my list is, so...
Yeah, it's like sometimes you're in dark mood and like the dark things. I think that anything that was just like happy and I enjoyed and I liked watching was the things that I was very into. And Moonrise Kingdom absolutely did that. The acting, I love those little kids, and Bill Murray, Bruce Willis, all of them. It just really felt like... I know Wes Anderson is like such a specific type and style, but this one, it felt like it all came together in a very perfect way.
It is kind of like the most Wes Anderson-y Wes Anderson film. It's almost like that's the one that he had been waiting to make until people were ready to accept that from him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do love that. Yeah, it is very upbeat because it's very much, first love from the kid's point of view in like, the entire world is the way things look from a kid's point of view. I think that's done incredibly well in that film.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm interested to know how you would compare like the qualities of that and Silver Linings Playbook, because they're very similar in the way they are both love stories of two very broken people.
Mm-hmm.
but in really different ways. So, like, I don't know what the question is here, but because you obviously loved them both,
right? So, are you saying like if I have a similar theme in that way?
Yeah, but I'm saying they're very different movies. So, which of the particular points of each one's style appealed to you? I guess.
I think that's hard. I think Silver Linings, like I said, I think it was their style. It was the style of being a very almost honest story, but quirky. And maybe Moonrise is a bit of the other side of that. It's like a very quirky movie with an honest story in a way. So they're similar and different in that. And I think I like the, and it's something about me in general. I like the interesting and like kind of weird people that aren't people that you necessarily, I mean, they are people you meet every day, but they're not stories that are told every day. And I think that was something that I appreciate. And I think it's something I appreciated in both of them very much. I don't know if that answered that question.
That was,
yeah.
Okay.
It was a non-specific question, more just like a themey thing. Yeah,
More
It's one of those things that if we were all in a room together, you'd see us all nodding our heads like, yes. But yeah, because we're on Skype, it's just blank silence. So, but yeah, okay, I get you.
Okay.
All right.
Number 3, this one I actually saw this one in the theater, and I just saw this one last weekend, was Django Unchained. And it was funny because, I mean, it's watching this movie, I actually think it was one of the funniest movies I've seen, or at least I laughed more at that movie than any movie that I've seen in a while. And that is such a strange experience with the subject matter.
Yeah.
That it is. And
it's one of those movies that you almost don't want to admit that you're laughing at so much.
And you know, it's actually, it's funny, I went with my sister, we both kind of walked out and we were like, did you feel a little awkward sitting in this audience, like all laughing at the, like all collectively laughing at this subject matter? And so it's hard. It's like almost like I didn't really want to admit that I loved it, but I did. And I think he did a good job. And I think that is one of the good things about it. I think that it takes this extremely difficult subject matter and, does bring it actually to light in a horrific way, and it shows how it is horrific. And sometimes it's like it's the comedy out of, oh my God, this was so insane. It's almost funny. And I really appreciated the way that it did that in a way. And like I said, it's hard because knowing that not that it was based on a true story, because of course it was not, historically accurate at all. But
there actually were, I studied this a lot when it's odd that in the South they actually taught us about this, but in the South there actually were, cowboys back before the Civil War who would just go around killing plantation owners. They weren't former slaves, but, they would go around killing plantation owners to try and just free all the slaves. So there is, if you look at it, there is, some basis of truth. Not that I believe that Quentin Tarantino actually stopped and researched anything for this beforehand, because Tarantino directs from his id, which is part of his charm. But yeah, it's one of those things in which a lot of people have been going, well, you should not you should not take the subject matter and try and turn it into a western. And I'm like, actually, historically speaking, you kind of could in some instances.
I wouldn't say he takes direction from his id. He directs from other movies he's seen.
Well,
basically, that's Tarantino, and that's what he does. He does it well, but that is what he does.
I won't disagree. And with that, I will move on to the next one.
All right, so now these are all the no particular order ones, right?
Yeah, they go in a bit of an order. As I'm looking at them, it's like, well, you'll see. Some of them then go to when I get to my later ones, like Ted. No laughter there. It's more just my visceral, I just really liked watching it. So
and that's totally fine, yes.
Yeah, that's where the favorite films came in.
Exactly.
I won't say it was the best movie of the year. I know it's not for a lot of people, but I just had a lot of fun with it. But in the next in the list, actually, we were talking a little bit about it, I think, before we actually started recording, but was Argo.
Oh, yes.
Which it is, and I think, my favorite thing about Argo, and we were, I mentioned in my Academy Awards recap that I'm very upset about Ben Affleck not being nominated, because I do think that it was the direction of that movie that made it great. Because to have a movie that we all know the conclusion, we know what happened, yet I was legitimately, like, riveted and, you know, at the end of the movie when they're going through all the stuff and it's like, go, get out, move, and it's like a movie that can do that based on something that I already know the conclusion to, I thought was very well done.
Yeah, that is the one thing that I really took away from it, is that I know the ending to this, I know what happens, but at the same time, it whatever. It sucks you in so much that you totally forget that. Well, even if you know that, even if you're like telling yourself it, it's almost like a horror movie. Because, like, in a horror movie, yeah, you know ghosts aren't real, or whatever that monster isn't real, but you're still scared. It's kind of the same thing. You know they're going to be okay, but you're scared out of your mind for them at the same time.
You're scared out of your mind. Yeah, you're still not sure, you know, it's like, are they going to make it out or not? And and that's where I think, you know, the choices that he made that and really allowed, you know, the editing and the way that the script was written really allowed that to come through, and I just thought it was great, and I really enjoyed it.
What was your favorite line from that movie? Because we think it's hilarious.
That is one of those movies that I saw it twice. First time I was so like freaked out and panicked during it and so tense. Second time I saw it, I realized just how incredibly clever that script is.
Was it the Argo fuck yourself?
Argo fuck yourself.
Argo fuck yourself. That's a good one.
I think that would be my favorite. So that is Argo. The next one is probably lesser known, and it actually is a documentary that I happened upon on Netflix, and it's called The Queen of Versailles.
Ooh,
and
I've heard this one, actually.
It's incredible. So it was at Sundance last year, and I think the director won an award for it. But it is about, I don't want to reveal too much because I learned something about who it was later, and I kind of liked not knowing, so I'm not going to say names or anything. But it's about this family who they are starting to build this house named Versailles that is the single most expensive house in the United States and biggest. It's like 100 rooms with a skating rink and like all this craziness. But so they started making a documentary about them as they're very, you know, it's like a billionaire family, and made a documentary about them and is filming them during 2008 and when the economic crisis hits.
Ooh.
So you see how these billionaires that live this crazy lifestyle start to like lose their money and not have anything, and you know it's just fascinating in seeing them go through it and how they happen. You know, it's like was so brilliant for this filmmaker that, you know, it's very sad to say that the economic crisis did well for her, because I think it turned into something different than she expected, and watching it, it's just fascinating. And the characters are just, you don't like them, but you're not even endeared to them. I don't know how to, they're awful people, but you are somehow enjoy watching them. It's like, I don't want to say they were compassionate because they're awful people, but it's like you are so roped into this world that I legitimately did not want it to be over. And that's why I said, like, I had to type their names into Google afterwards and be like, what's going on now? What has happened? And it's one of the best. I mean, I don't watch tons of documentaries. I actually love them, but I just, you know, don't watch many. And I highly recommend this one.
I'm definitely going to have to watch it because I enjoy documentaries myself. I used to run an article on screen, Doctor Documentary, and this year has been kind of for documentaries. I've seen a couple that I really enjoyed, but those are my favorite kind of documentaries. The ones where they're just filming one subject and then just something completely changes.
Yeah.
Like, as they're filming it. I always love those ones, and they're so rare because it rarely ever happens. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. So, Queen of Versailles, right?
Yes, The Queen of Versailles.
All right, excellent.
Yes. That
right,
is
and
it.
What's your next one?
My next one is, this was a bit controversial for me, but I am going to put it on, is The Dark Knight Rises.
Wow.
And I know. That's why I said it's... I know. That's why I said it was controversial in the way that I think in a way, I love the franchise as a whole more than I love the movie itself. But it's like it completed the whole franchise enough for me that I put it in there, and I did enjoy it. I think that it has problems, and I'm not, I admit that, and I know that it was not a perfect movie. I don't even know if I would say it's a great movie, but I liked it for what it did and for what it was. And I just love the Dark Knight series so much. It's one of my favorite superhero franchises, so I put it in there.
How many times did you see it?
The Dark Knight Rises? I actually only saw it once. I was like, The Dark Knight, don't ask, because it's an embarrassing amount of number of times I saw it in the theater.
Oh, I will find that number out one day.
Oh, it's not embarrassing. The Dark Knight,
it's not embarrassing.
The Dark Knight deserves it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's my problem with The Dark Knight Rises. I think if when you're in the cinema the first time, you're like, yes, Batman is back, and then it doesn't hold up going back. But then when you're in that moment, you are still a bit like, yeah, Batman.
Oh, yeah, and exactly. Like, I have some problems throughout it, but that last act, the third and final act, that is just to the wall with everything. That is incredible, that last act. I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought that I had a bit of a different... With the Dark Knight, I thought it's like great, and then the third act, it's kind of like I kind of wish they cut most of the third act out, or there was a lot of it that could have been cut out.
I know, right?
Yeah, and it's like the movie ended twice, and yet I still love the Dark Knight so much. But this one, it felt the opposite, where it took a while to like kind of take off, and then once it did, you were into it, and so, yeah, and I completely agree with you that when you're in it and watching it, it's like, wow, great, awesome. And then, like you said, I mean, I went to see The Dark Knight so many times, and this one I haven't bothered to watch again. So that says something. But that being said, like I said, it kind of completed the franchise for me enough that I enjoyed it in that way and appreciated it for kind of the conclusion and closure of it. Yeah,
it's kind of like when Return of the King just swept the Oscars that year, just simply because it was like, this is the Lord of the Rings entirety award, winning the award for every single one of those. This is kind of your spot for I love the franchise, and this was
it's
the
like
period mark at the end, exclamation mark, I should say.
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was like just the continuation, and rather than being a different movie, it was like, okay, if I look at this as a whole, the last part would be not as good, but still good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My next one is actually that I mentioned earlier, and is Ted, and because it just made me laugh, and it's very rare for me to go to a comedy that makes me laugh, and it did, and
that seems like that would be a problem.
Right?
Are you a big Family Guy fan? Let me ask you that.
I'm not here. Like, I'm definitely a fan. I'm not like a very active fan, if that makes sense. I haven't seen every episode. It's like when they're on, I turn them on. I, watch the first few seasons. I don't know everything, but I am a fan.
Okay.
Like, I'm definitely a fan. So that's some of it. And, I don't, there's just something about it that I just loved. I think maybe it's because I had a stuffed animal that I, still slept with till I was like 20 years old, and I could relate in a way, but yeah, I loved it.
That's great. There's a musical number in there that got nominated for best song. I have not yet seen the movie. How is the music in it?
It's funny because actually when I saw that, I meant to before I did this and didn't go back and look at, I can't even remember there's only one song that I can remember, and it's Fuck You Thunder. When they're Thunder Buddies.
Oh, the thing in the trailer, yeah.
Yeah, the thing in the trailer. But I don't remember what the musical number is, so I'll have to go back and look at it before I can have an opinion on it. So, right. I mean, I guess it can't be that great if I don't remember it, but...
Everybody Needs a Best Friend, which...
Oh, right.
I think it must have been the thing they were doing with the karaoke machine. I don't know.
Oh, right.
Was that a real song? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It just means that there's not enough good songs in films at the moment.
Well, we're going to have Jay-Z scoring Gatsby, so,
I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by that myself. Although I do have to point out, it's best original song, and something from Les Mis got nominated, which there are no original songs in there. They've existed for centuries, pretty much.
If the Les Mis song got nominated, sorry, takes the Oscars. If that got nominated, how did the song from The Hobbit not get nominated? If they can take Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Man.
they make their
I
own
don't know.
rules, the Oscars.
Yeah, apparently.
But yeah.
Probably song anyway.
But yeah, what do you have next, Stacey?
Next I have... What is that? Oh, Skyfall.
Ah,
Bond.
nice.
Yes, I think in that way that you take a 50-year-old franchise and make an amazing movie, and the cinematography blew my mind in some of those scenes, and Javier Bardem I thought was incredible, and how he was not nominated for an Academy Award is surprising to me, even though I do know that category was very tough. But I just thought it was. It actually makes me sad that it has the Bond title on it. I mean, it couldn't exist without it, but it's I think because of that, everybody thinks, oh, it's just a Bond movie, and it wasn't that great. When I really think it's just a great movie.
Yeah, it's that is. I'll admit, I've only seen 2 James Bond movies in my life. This one and one of the Pierce Brosnan ones, and so to say that this is my favorite James Bond movie means diddly squat. But this was the movie that made me go, oh, I get James Bond now. I get why he's cool. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
and
were you big into James Bond before this? Was it a franchise that you often followed, or?
I've kind of followed it in the later years. It's I've seen a lot of them. I'm not a huge, fanatic or anything. I've seen a lot of them, but I think they're just fun, great movies usually. And this one I thought was a fun, great, good movie. So I had seen all of the Daniel Craig ones, and loved Casino Royale. Quantum of Solace I haven't watched it enough recently. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, whatever, and then haven't watched it again. So this one I would watch again in a heartbeat, and that's kind of always sometimes my gauge of how much I want to see a movie a second time.
Oh yeah. All right, was that number 8 or number 9 for you?
I think that was number 8.
Oh, okay. So then what's your number 9 film?
My number 9 is Beasts of the Southern Wild.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I love that movie.
I know you
trying not to cry right now just thinking about it. But
it is, I debated about it a little bit more than I thought I would. But more than anything, I am so appreciative of a work that, is done and that gets recognized, that is original and fresh and interesting and, tells a story in an interesting way. And that little girl is such an amazing actor. It astounds my brain. I can't even, it's the emotion in her face at age 9 is how she was able to do that is really incredible to me. And I just thought it was really, really good. My only thing about it, I kind of wished I had known nothing about it when I saw it, because I think I had by everything I had heard, I had a bit of a different idea of what it was going to be than what it actually was. When people kept talking about her, imagination and being in her mind, I kind of thought that was... I didn't get that the way that it was described to me, I didn't understand it as much, so I spent a lot of the movie waiting for that, in a way.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you're saying that, because I went through the exact same thing, which, people were saying, oh, it's almost like a fairy tale, it's like an imaginary world, and it's her mind just playing with everything. It's no, this is, very realistic. There were some people who even were telling me, oh, this is a post-apocalyptic kind of thing. It's not entirely. It's not at all. No, the fantasy thing isn't even really coming in until the very end of the film.
Yeah,
but
and it's she does that occasionally. She has those few visions of when I don't know if it's totally real when she's thinking about the bathtub, and but it's more of a fantastical thing than she's actually in her mind and things like that. So that, I absolutely agree with you. I wish I hadn't heard anything, because I think I would have, I was so confused by it for a while that it took me kind of thinking about it and, emotionally feeling it to be no, okay, for what it is, because I agree with you, it felt very realistic to me.
Yeah, me too. I was this is exactly what could go on today, and it's very much like Moonrise Kingdom, which was on earlier in your list. It's a lot of the child's point of view of this real thing. Except, Moonrise Kingdom, it's the entire world is kind of sculpted around how a child might view something. And this is just kind of a child constantly interpreting this world. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's 9. 10, you know what, I've gotten here, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know if I'm even putting anything on, and...
You can do honourable mentions.
You can do
this is the honourable mentions that I'm deciding between. These are all movies that I kind of liked, I don't know if I put them on the list, but, End of Watch, The Avengers, and Safety Not Guaranteed. Those are my honourable mentions. And they're all very different.
I'm trying to think of which one to comment on, because we've talked about each of those things pretty endlessly throughout the course of the 6 months we've been doing this podcast. But yeah, it's what do you like about each of them?
The Avengers I liked just because I thought it was a good action movie. Like, it was another one, it was just another one that I enjoyed. It was another one that I liked it, I had fun, I thought the dialogue was good, and it just was a fun time at the movies. And sometimes you just want a good, experience like that. And I appreciated that in it. Safety Not Guaranteed, even as I'm saying this, I still can't decide if I like it. And so it's odd that
it's very much is that kind of movie, yes.
Yeah. It's like, I think I liked it, but then it's kind of like, did I like it? And then it's kind of just confusing. And so I really don't know. But I also then think any movie that makes me think about it 4 months after I saw it gets a mention.
Oh,
so that's kind of why it's an honorable mention. And End of Watch was another one, too, that it's so difficult to watch, and I had a lot of problems with it, but I couldn't decide if, the realism and, what was there and how they did depict stuff was so unsettling that it's like I didn't really like it in that way, or if I just kind of didn't really like it. So, not to say that I didn't like it, but I didn't, love it. I thought it was very well done and very good. So actually, one of the reasons I put them on there, so, I'm sure everybody's seen The Avengers, but I would love to hear, and you guys can comment too, what other people thought about Safety Not Guaranteed and End of Watch, because it's one of those that I want to almost discuss in a way and hear what other people think to help me figure out what I think.
I don't think you want to hear what I have to say about Safety Not Guaranteed.
On the episode we recorded yesterday, we brought up Safety Not Guaranteed, and we said this was going to be an episode with no fighting. So
I do not like Safety Guaranteed at all.
That's fair.
I am in
that
the middle on it,
movie
and Kevin, the other member of our show who has seen it, he loves it. So it won't help you at all.
I know. I was going to say, I will not fight either way on it. I'm kind of with you in that, Aaron, that I'm very in the middle on it. And it's there's part of me, for some reason, I want to talk about it. It's still in my brain. And so it's there's something about it that hit me, but if you say you don't like it, I wouldn't even know how to fight that. I would say, okay. Some I will.
Yeah, I think my problem with it, not getting confrontation about it, but my problems were that I felt the characters were kind of empty. I thought that their flaws were flaws in a way that indie movies give flaws to their apparently mentally ill characters in such a superficial way and never address their problems. They never actually dig into that, and that's why I didn't like about it at all. They bring up the thing with that guy about the truth about the car crash and then completely ignore it at the end.
Yeah,
they completely ignore it. You don't do that.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things in which Jackson was laying out every single one of his problems. And I was like, I totally agree. And then Kevin laid out everything they liked about it. I was like, I totally agree.
Exactly. That's what I said when you did. I just did the same thing. I was like, yep. I can't even argue with you. I can't even say no to that. Anything you just said. But if Kevin were here telling me why he liked it, I'd probably agree too. So that's why it's an honorable mention in that I think it's worth watching to make your own opinion.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, cool. I want to thank Stacey for being on, and I really wish I knew of a better way to end these things. This is our first one. I'll figure it out by the end. We got 9 of these to do, so I'll figure it out. All right. Yes. Stay tuned for the next one, everybody.
Bye.
You cracked it, Mike. You cracked it.
That was funny.